Welcome to The Source, where we combine the headlines with in-depth conversations with the newsmakers themselves. Sitting in for Pinky Webb, I'm Risa Hontiveros. Today on the program, former Senator Leila de Lima survives a hostage-taking incident in her detention cell. Now, groups are renewing their calls for her release. A lawmaker is urging the Education Department to realign its proposed confidential funds. And later, an assessment of President Bongbong Marcos' first 100 days. Senator Risa Hontiveros joins us live. Former Senator Leila de Lima considers the brief hostage-taking incident in her detention facility as a near-death experience, expressing gratitude to those who prayed and showed concern for her safety. President Bongbong Marcos wants an investigation into the hostage-taking incident and even offered a possibility of a jail transfer for the former senator. Interior Secretary Benher Abulos said that he relayed the president's offer to de Lima, but the latter believes she is still safe in her detention facility. Some lawmakers also urged for a probe into the hostage-taking incident, with an opposition senator calling it unjust, barbaric, and despicable. Now let's go straight to the source of the story, Senator Risa Hontiveros. Good morning, Senator. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning, Ria. Thanks for inviting me.
Senator, you were among the first to visit former Senator Leila de Lima after she was briefly taken hostage in her detention facility. What was your reaction when you first arrived there, and what kind of state was the former senator in when you first saw her physically and mentally?
We embraced as soon as I arrived there, and you won't believe it, Ria, but even after her harrowing experience, pagdating ko doon, si Sen Leila, nasa gitna na ng pagsusulat ng kanyang salaysay. So though she was hunched over in her chair, and of course, who can be unshaken by such an experience, she was already committing to paper her memories of that ordeal. Sabi niya habang sariwa pa. And, you know, with her typical strength of spirit, you know, unbroken after half a decade in unjust detention, she was talking with me, with her staffer who was there, her lawyer who was there, sometimes even able to laugh if she heard or thought of anything funny. Parang pinapagpag niya, no? Mm-hmm. Pero she also said that so many times the hostage taker pressed hard against her chest, either a makeshift screwdriver or makeshift ice pick. So siguro, Ria, today, nagpapasa na yung dibdib niya. She really went through something terrible. I mean, in the national headquarters of our national police, supposedly the most secure of any camp or any custodial center, na-hostage pa siya, no? She was dragged out of her quarters, then dragged back in again, pushed, and she fell to the floor. Mabuti daw, hindi tumama yung ulo niya. She was choked. That makeshift weapon pressed many times against her chest. Akala niya, itutuluyan na siya, no? Sasaksakin na siya. She was blindfolded. She was tied by her hands, by her legs to her chair.
How long did this ordeal last, Senator?
What she went through.
How long did this ordeal last?
Yes. Well, by her recollection, it started past 6:30 in the morning. She estimated around 6:40, and then it was over by about 7:10 or 7:18. So within half an hour, all this happened. One of the would-be escapees ran to her quarters, took her hostage, and then by 7:18, as she estimates, she was finally rescued by that police officer. So he was like a guardian angel to her. But alam mo, Ria, even after the PNP investigates and the DOJ investigates this, as they should, even if corrections are made to the mistakes and the inadequacies in security, Actually, lampas na ito sa PNP, Ria. Nasa kamay na ni Presidente. As I called on him, as many have called on the administration since yesterday, Sen Leila should not even have been in that situation na pwede siyang targetin ng hostage taker. She should not have been in jail in the first place the past half decade. And so with greater urgency, I call upon the President to do the moral and the legal thing and to set her free. Almost all of the witnesses against her in the cases filed by the previous administration, halos lahat sila riyan nag-recant na ng testimony nila. So the case against her is lost. If it was, and it was not even ever alive from the start. Pero talagang falling by the wayside. I really call on the President to free her, Ria.
Speaking of the President, Senator, President Bongbong Marcos offered at least a jail transfer, but DILG Secretary Benher Abalos, he said that the Senator actually declined this offer because she said that she still feels safe in the detention facility. Did she tell you the same, and do you think she needs to be transferred?
Imagine the dignity of Sen Leila, Ria, after her harrowing experience, to still tell Chief PNP when he came to visit her also that she still feels safe, where she had earlier been taken hostage and had to be rescued. The dignity of that person, hindi nawawala pa rin sa kanya yung pagiging former government official niya, former senator niya. And as to the offer of the President, well, I really believe she should be transferred not to another detention center, but transferred, returned to freedom, which has been her right based on truth, based on justice these past 6 years.
Yeah, you were there on the ground yesterday, Senator. How did authorities explain the way the hostage taker was able to even access former Senator De Lima's quarters? Because you said that going to the area where she was kept is like weaving through a maze. It's not really easy to get to. Am I right?
Yes. That's you are right, Ria. Parang maze. It's deep in the in Camp Crame, deep in the PNP Custodial Center. Ang mga bisita nga sa kanya nahihirapang makapasok, 'di ba? Like as we experienced and as we witnessed during her last birthday. So paano itong tao na di umanong tumatakas ay kayang maging hostage taker pa sa kanya? I think when the PNP and the DOJ complete what should be a thorough investigation, unang-unang dapat maging katanggap-tanggap o kapani-paniwala ito kay Sen Leila mismo. And even if and when they make their findings and their recommendations and they actually implement any improvements in security, so that this should never have happened to her or for that matter to any person deprived of liberty. Lampas na yun dun Ria, at this point in time. She should not even have to be the subject of improved security arrangements kasi hindi naman siya talaga dapat bihag in the first place. At yun na nga, dapat siyang palayain kahapon pa.
So speaking of her detention, Senator, in your view, how should the government speed up the process if they do indeed want to free former Senator Leila de Lima?
Well, today she has another hearing for one of her cases. I really hope that not just her defense lawyers, but the court itself and the whole justice system will take a step or steps forward to see na walang basehan talaga itong mga kaso laban sa kanya, yung mga paratang, pati yung mga testigo sa kanya who I mentioned earlier, more and more have been recanting their testimony. So I really hope that the day of justice, of the recognition of the truth she has been speaking from day one, the recognition of her right to be restored to freedom is moving closer.
Now, on the other end of the spectrum, Senator, some De Lima critics are saying that this whole thing was a ploy to have herself freed. What's your reaction to that?
Wow, that is the height of insensitivity. Gumigising lang sa akin ng height of incredulity. How could a person who was just going through her daily forced routines as a detainee the past more than a half decade, who was actually praying the rosary, her daily morning rosary, nung biglang pumasok yung escapee, yung naging hostage taker niya. What? How could she even think, let alone be enabled to concoct such a thing? Si Sen Leila ay bihag, the greatest injustice to her in the past several years. Hinostage siya, halos saksakin siya. She had to be rescued by a police officer. Oh, please. Unfortunately, Ria, I think any people or any group who could say such a thing must probably have been behind this continued injustice against her in the past several years in the first place. Lahat ng disinformation at fake news at trolling laban sa kanya, ngayon, sa kabila nung napaka-harrowing na karanasan niya kahapon, that is the best or the worst they can do. I hope that such terrible action on their part can only further impress upon the courts and upon the president himself that justice must be given, Sen Leila. Justice must be given to our country by setting her free.
All right, Senator, we still have a lot more to talk about, but we need to take a short break. Stay with us. This is The Source on CNN Philippines. You're watching The Source on CNN Philippines. I'm Bria Tanwatco Trillo. Our guest this morning, Senator Risa Hontiveros. Welcome back, Senator. I'd like to talk now about veteran radio journalist Percy Lapid, who, as you know, was laid to rest this weekend. And the image of one of the persons of interest has been released with now a 6.5 million peso bounty. What else can the government do to ensure that justice is served in this case?
They can honor the memory of Percy Lapid, Percy Mabasa, by not just investigating his case and giving justice to his widow Lisa and their 6 children and all the colleagues, friends, and relatives of Percy, but heeding his life's work. Kasi si Percy, Ria, as you know better than me, being his colleague in the media, devoted his life until the point of death to speaking the truth as he saw it, no? Speaking truth to power. Hindi siya natakot mula nung nakaraang administrasyon hanggang sa administrasyon ngayon to speak truthfully and fairly for justice. Sinuportahan siya doon ni Ma'am Lisa at nung kanilang mga anak. As a widow myself, I can only imagine what Lisa is going through now at sa paraan pa kung paano namatay yung kanyang asawa. She supported him all throughout his life's work. His children understand what their father was trying to do through his work. The least that government can do, that the law enforcement authorities can do, is to uncover the truth behind his murder and bring justice to him and enable the wider community of journalists, human rights defenders, and all the families to build a less violent society, a more humane society, unmolested, including in the most terrible way that this violence has been visited on Percy.
Yeah, some heartbreaking images we're looking at there of his funeral. Now, his brother Roy Mabasa, also a journalist, told us here on CNN that obviously the family does not want Percy's death to be just another statistic. On your end, Senator, what can you propose to further protect media and journalists' welfare and safety?
Well, Ria, as someone working in the legislature and wanting to support from the legislative side the professional work and the speaking truth to justice that are being done by you journalists in our country na Terrible, di ba? A few years ago, sinabi isa sa pinaka mapanganib na bansa na maging mamamahayag tulad ng ipinakita sa ginawa kay Percy Lapid. I can only continue to not just file resolutions to investigate such terrible crimes, but proactively file bills, pass these bills into law to support and protect the work that you journalists do. That is essential. You as the fourth estate, essential talaga sa pagpoprotekta at pagpapalawak ng ating, sabi nga ni Nathan Kim po, ng ating contested democracy. Lalo na sa panahon ngayon ng disinformation, fake news, trolling. Your allies in government and in civil society should stand behind you, behind truth seekers and truth tellers, kayong mga journalists, to push back against these attacks against truth, against freedom of the press, against freedom of speech.
Absolutely. Now, onto a different topic, if we may, Senator. The debate on whether POGOs should be permanently banned is raging on. Just last week, PNP Chief Rodolfo Azurin said that close to 300 policemen have been providing security to POGO bosses and their extended families. What is your reaction to all of this?
Really, wow. No, I'm glad that Chief PNP Azurin revealed this. It should immediately or yesterday have been stopped. Kasi kahit yung mga kababayan nating mga negosyante, mamumuhunan, ay hindi naman natin pinapa-secure sa PNP, lalo na mga dayuhang negosyante na nasa napaka kontrobersyal at sasabihin ko ng negatibong negosyo pa tulad ng POGO. Since a couple of years ago, Ria, that the Senate Committee on Women investigated POGO-related prostitution, illegal detention, sumabog yung pastilya scam, konektado din sa POGO, umabot sa human trafficking. Since then, I have called on the banning of the POGOs from Philippine territory. Kolektahin ng BIR yung utang nilang buwis at that time, 2 years ago already, 50 million pesos, and then iban na sila, palayasin na sila sa ating bansa. This recent round of investigations on POGOs and their relationship to crimes, not just against each other but against our citizens, hindi lang yung mga empleyado ng POGO, yung iba sa kanila biktima na rin ng human trafficking, pero lalo na yung mga krimen na kagagawa ng mga may-ari at financier ng POGO dito sa atin. They have contributed in previous years so little financially na yun ang ibinibida nilang ibibigay daw nila sa ating ekonomiya, but the scale has tipped heavily on the side of the costs against the so-called benefits of POGOs, lalo na yung social cost, Dia, sa ating mga kababayan, lalo na sa ating mga kababaihan, yung ating mga bata at kabataan, at ngayon pati ibang mga kababayang Pilipino natin, at pati yung mga kababayan nilang Chinong mga POGO employee. So what is there to say for POGOs? They should have been banned a long time ago. And in this renewed round of calls and investigations, just get them out.
All right, Senator, with that, we'll be taking a short break. Once again, this is The Source on CNN Philippines. Please stay tuned. You're watching The Source on CNN Philippines. I'm Ria Tanwat-Cotrillo, and our source today is Senator Risa Hontiveros. All right, Senator, let's continue our conversation, but now I want to talk about the confidential funds. You want the 150 million peso confidential funds proposed by the Education Department to be realigned. How do you want these to be realigned? Which programs would you like to see this money go to?
Well, I started that conversation already during the DepEd budget hearing at the Senate, noting, for example, na yung education para sa ating mga katutubong Filipino, IP education, nawalan ng item sa proposed budget ng DepEd. At tinanong ko na, dun pa lang si Sec VP Duterte kung pwedeng voluntarily i-realign ng DepEd yung kanilang proposed confidential and intelligence funds doon sa IP education. Bukod pa sa nauna naming napag-usapan na yung SPED, no, Special Education budget. Sinabi naman nila na earlier na magre-realign na sila from their funds, di lang tinukoy kung galing sa confidential and intelligence. And overall, sinabi ni SEC VP na iwan daw nila sa Kongreso yung desisyon about the amount and even the propriety of such item, confidential and intelligence funds. You know, Ria, I'm not arguing against any confidential and intelligence funds to civilian agencies tulad ng DepEd. Pero kung para sa mga activities na isinagot ni SEC VP nung tinanong ko what would that 150 million be for, binanggit kasi nila no mga trabaho tulad ng pag-rent ng safe houses. So maitatanong, bakit magde-detain ba ng tao ang DepEd? Sabi pa nila yung pagbili ng mga sasakyan para sa surveillance, yun ba ay trabaho ng DepEd? Binanggit din nila yung pagbayad sa mga informants. Yun din ba ay trabaho ng DepEd? Palagay ko, Ria, lahat ng mga in-enumerate ni SEC VP na pagkakagastusan ng 150 million pesos confidential intelligence funds ng DepEd are properly the work of our national defense, interior and national police, anti-drugs, even women and protection government agencies and programs. Yung mga usaping national defense at saka national police, iwan natin sa mga eksperto. These are not the mandate of DepEd. Madidistract lang sila sa gitna pa naman ng isang malawak na at matinding education crisis natin. Lalo na nabanatan pa ng pandemic. And recently, we've heard about the findings about learning poverty. So I would rather see that 150 million pesos confidential and intelligence funds realigned sa ibang mga totoong programa ng DepEd.
All right. No, but for Albay Representative Ed Selagman, he wants to purge some 9 billion pesos worth of confidential and intelligence funds in the entire 2023 budget. Is this something you would support?
Well, it's something that we should seriously consider kasi yung budget unang tinatrabaho ng House and then tinatransmit nga sa amin dito sa Senado. So I think Rep. Edsel as minority in the House at kami ni Minority Leader Sen Coco dito sa Senate, as part of our houses, we are just doing our duty as part of Congress dahil hawak ng Congress ang power of the purse. So trabaho namin ilabas yung batas ng national budget taon-taon and to be proactive to make sure that the money, lalo na galing sa buwis ng mamamayan, hawak ng gobyerno, pero sa gitna pa ng napakasikip na fiscal space to make sure that these are allocated properly. At saka din, dahil ang confidential and intelligence funds, labas sa sakop o saklaw ng trabaho ng Commission on Audit. So lalo na't ang mga pondo na hindi ma-audit tulad ng mga ibang pondo ng gobyerno, lalong dapat naming siguruhin that these are in the GAA or General Appropriations Act appropriated properly so as also to prevent graft and corruption.
Right, that would be the ideal. Now, Senator, let's talk about the first 100 days of the Marcos administration. Ma'am, how would you assess the first 100 days of President Bongbong Marcos? I think you came out with a statement already saying that you were not all that satisfied.
Yes, kasi dapat ang first 100 days are a time for a new president, a new administration to show boldness and firm leadership, lalo na sa multiple crises na ating kinalalagyan. Palabas pa lang sa pandemic, nalugmok pa rin sa recession, including a food crisis, on and underemployment. Pero parang hindi pa maramdaman yung firm grip ni Presidente on the levers of power or the reins of power or the wheel of the ship of state. Of course, hindi ko naman ine-expect, wala namang nag-expect masosolve nila sa unang 100 araw lamang lahat ng mga problema natin. Pero at least magpakita ng yung leadership na kinakailangan sabihin sa atin pagkatapos ng kanilang inauguration speech at unang SONA, sabihin sa atin at least yung general directions na dapat nating tahakin in the next 6 years, and to show that he is the person who will lead government and even lead society in implementing the solutions to those problems. And of course, nobody can turn back the hands of time. Ibalik tayo sa unang 100 araw. Pero ngayon, sabi ko, let him put his shoulder to the wheel. Let him put his back into the work that is needed.
Senator, can you comment on your view on his inability to complete his cabinet with key posts still unfulfilled even after 3 months? What's your take on that?
Well, I'm waiting. Our country is waiting. Nasaan na yung DOH secretary para talagang tuluyan tayong ilabas sa pandemya towards a new and better health normal. Maganda-ganda yung kanyang binuong economic team, pero nasaan din yung DA secretary para hindi na maulit yung sugar importation fiasco. Wala nang tawag mo doon, yung mga sinisisi na ibang tao sa halip na yung talagang nagkulang, and magkaroon siya ng katandem to address our agricultural and food crisis na huwag siyang maging food catastrophe. Tulungan siya, i-partner siya dun sa long-term at strategic na pagpapaunlad sa ating agricultural sector. And there's at least a half dozen, possibly, other high government positions that still need to be filled. Para kasabay ng kanyang firm leadership, dapat meron din siyang malakas at dapat sanang magaling na kabinete para nga tulungan siya mamuno sa susunod na 6 na taon in a much better way than has been shown so far in these first 100 days.
All right, we will have to see what happens and if and when those positions get filled. Senator, thank you so much for speaking with us. That was Senator Risa Hontiveros. And thank you for joining us here on The Source. I'm Ria Tanwat Cotrillo. You're watching CNN Philippines.